Average men have to swipe 1,000 times to get a date, to get a match, to get a reply even. 1,000 times, imagine. Is it part of why modern dating is so messed up? The options for some are quite limited, whereas the options for a small few are they're almost infinite, aren't they? But how true is that?
You can't tell women to lower their expectations, but this is the reality. When you ask a man if you could have a woman who had 80% of everything you wanted, 75% say, yeah, I'm on board. When you say to a woman, a man has 80% of what you want, 75% say that's not enough. But even look at the media.
Oh, what a harlot. Even when it's nearly enough, it's still not enough, is it?
That's not enough. What does the media tell a woman to do? He's out, but he didn't open your door. He's not nice to his parent. Walk right out on that man. Like, it's literally every piece of media is, you don't need him. You're a strong, independent woman. Pull the ripcord.
My friends, that was Scott Galloway, and every time I see him, I just want to remind him, you are a marketing expert.
That's not enough.
Why do you consistently force yourself into this conversation?
Okay, well, as you can see, this is me responding to a woman responding to Scott Galloway, a marketing expert. Hey, I hope you're focused and on your square. Everyone with various skills are throwing their 2 cents in. But I mean, why wouldn't they? It's modern dating and relationships, isn't it? Doesn't everyone have an opinion?
You're a strong, independent woman.
But my point is to begin. There are so many layers to this topic. There are layers upon layers to this topic. I've been making a lot of points recently that a lot of people are dating from different perspectives, different levels of experience, different levels of understanding, and also different mental states of mind. You could also throw different political, religious perspectives in there as well. Okay, whatever. We get the point. But the main key point here that a lot of it is focused on is the visible, isn't it? It's the looks, isn't it? So if we're going to localize it to just the looks, yeah, a lot of men feel as if, well, their experience is they have to swipe damn near thousands of times to get one match. Now, we'll not say it's on the men, but is all of it just on the men?
That's not enough.
I know if you give a mouse a cookie, he probably wants a glass of milk. Apparently, if you give a man a microphone, he's definitely going to tell women how to live their lives.
Wow.
But let's look at his messaging here. Because I'll admit, he is giving it his marketing spin. He talks about the fact that men will take women who they don't think fulfill their expectations completely. Let me fill you in on a little bit of something you may not have learned in marketing class. Men don't care.
Wow.
Men do not care who these women are as people. Their standards are so much lower because they don't care about true compatibility.
Damn, wow, this woman's just going ham, isn't she? She's just really just cussing the hell out of men.
Wow. Men do not care.
Apparently men don't care enough. Just a shell of a woman would do. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah, you do, woman. You're not a full 100% of what I want. You're 80%.
Woman who had 80% of everything you wanted?
Yeah, you're just a shell. Yeah, you're lacking a soul. Yeah, that 20% soul is gone in it. But you're 80% of a woman. That'll do. Nothing but shell. Probably cook and clean for me. And I'll put some babies in that shell casing that you got. Yeah?
At 80% of everything. Do not care.
Wow. It's like you get what she's saying. However, on one hand, it's like, you're just insulting men to act as if men don't want anything more from a woman apart from just a being that just does. Like a man doesn't want a woman he actually cares about, that has a personality and good character and things like that. Wow. That's probably from her experience. But then again, levels. She's probably never met a man that saw her as human.
Do not care.
And what are the standards? If a woman's list is that the man is trustworthy, that he's kind, that he's compassionate, those may be deal breakers. But if the guy's list is 5'2", size 2 with double D's, I think he might be more willing to let that go. Also, I love when they start a video like, I'm not saying women should lower their standards, but...
Some women's standards are ridiculous. I'm not saying they should lower their standards, even though ironically a lot of them do anyway, but some women's standards are ridiculous. Some women, I think, deserve to not be able to find a man.
Let me talk for 3 minutes about why you really should. Let's keep going.
I read that on Tinder, a man of average attractiveness has to swipe right 200 times to get one coffee. And then 4 of those 5 coffees will ghost him.
Damn.
They will decide they don't want to meet him or they won't show up. That means a guy of average attractiveness has to swipe right 1,000 times to get one coffee. Now, what does that tell that guy?
That a lot of women are lying garden tools.
Do not care.
A bunch of deceptive lying garden tools will waste your time. They'll break your heart. And all you want to do is buy her a cheap coffee. Buy her a cheap, watered down coffee. Yeah, it's not even coffee beans, it's instant, but now seriously. Yeah, we're joking. However, it would give a lot of men the perspective that a lot of these women are flaky, that a lot of them are just really just trying to waste your time. It would make a lot of men question themselves and ask, well, maybe if I had more money, maybe if I had more looks even, more status even, and sadly for a lot of men, more height even.
That's not enough.
Maybe then my chances will be better. Now the thing is, all of those things don't necessarily mean and guarantee anything. However, in modern times, a lot of men have experienced firsthand that those things have hindered them. Them having certain things or lacking certain things have hindered them. Now, whether it's their own male delusion or not, whatever, waffle. A lot of women may ghost on dating apps because they're probably not really interested in themselves. And a lot of women use apps because they're bored, to be honest. The guy she may really want is probably not talking to her. She's just passing time or she's just casually dating herself. But this does lead to a lot of self-thought and a lot of self-questioning and egos at play as well. And you can't ever say to anyone, don't take it personal. Because if someone sees the same thing, experiences the same thing over and over again, they can't help but take it personal, can they?
Women don't value me. Women make me feel rejected. And then they go online and they see these misogynists telling them it's not your fault. And these men become much more prone to misogynistic content, much more prone to nationalistic content, blaming other people for the lack of economic opportunity.
It's literally on there being like, I read something somewhere. He has no expertise in this area. But let's talk about said thing he read somewhere. Number one, love the way he delivered it. Like, this was earth-shattering. They have to swipe hundreds of times to get one coffee. Look at this guy. Look at this camera. Let's talk about that.
She's taking the absolute piss.
Hundreds of times to get
One coffee?
Now we get it, she's going to make a point, but wow, my God, you could be a bit more subtle with the subject, you know? But now she doesn't care, does she?
One coffee?
She's just being raw with it. Yeah, go on, spit your fire.
Have you ever noticed the difference between the way women go through dating apps and the way men do? Because I'll tell you something. Many a time in public spaces, I have seen men literally like rapid fire going through profile, not reading it, barely glimpsing the image.
He's probably trying a scattershot method. It is not good. It's not good, I'm just saying, but he's like, F it.
Rapid fire.
I could spend time trying to curate the perfect type of woman I want, but it's like, F that. At this moment in time, I'm just trying to get I can't say it.
Rapid fire.
At this moment in time, anything will do, so, okay, all right.
And just saying yes. And when you approach dating that way, one, you are not going off of compatibility. You are barely going off of, I can see this person with my eyeballs. So if you are not really looking at a woman's profile and figuring out whether or not you're compatible, of course, you're going to do a lot of swiping before you get a match. And earlier he was talking about the type of media women are consuming. I don't know if he's watching 80s like talk show hosts when he was saying like, you don't need a man. Pull the ripcord, girl. What are you talking about?
You're a strong, independent woman.
Well, it seems like they've carried on that 80s rhetoric into modern times. It's not even so much more about that. It's more the stance that women have now because they are so independent. The reality is a lot of women don't actually need a man for their survival. And that's all well and good, but it's how it's worn as... It's not even just a badge of honor, like I'm so successful and independent by myself. A lot of women turn it into a shaming tactic, like, oh, look at me, I'm a woman. How, as a woman, am I more successful in this patriarchal world? It's built for men. Rah. How and why, as a woman, am I more successful? And it's like, again, even if it's not said, it's a subconscious sort of vibe as well. Like I'm saying, there are many, many layers to it. It's not so much that I don't need a man talk.
You don't need a man.
One could say it's a common aura, a vibe the modern woman's putting out. In a lot of cases, not all, but yeah, we get the point.
I'll tell you one thing, Scott. The type of media I often consume is the horrifying statistics of violence against women.
Oh my God.
And that the most dangerous man to a woman is often her romantic partner. So while we can boo-hoo
I mean, using that as a statistic for this doesn't really make sense. I mean, because you're using the example of men struggling to find a partner on a dating app
One coffee?
with men who are, their partners, their girlfriends, their wives, whatever. So I mean, okay, I get your point. You're just trying to generalize it and say, well, men are violent in general. But okay, not a good example, because if we're going to throw in random examples, one could say, well, a lot of men understand they don't even need to be decent men nowadays. Tell a woman what she wants to hear. You can be a toxic F-boy of a dude and run through a lot of women, from woman to woman. Lie to her, get the other chick pregnant. Yeah, does it matter?
One coffee?
Strange how a lot of men have more power when they don't care. I'm just saying, if we're throwing in random points.
all day about the men who have to swipe a lot of times before they get that coffee, one also has to consider the context and the risk that women have when they're meeting up with perfect strangers, especially when we know the statistics of one, the amount of men that lie on these apps, and two, that lie by being married or in relationships. So women have a lot to think about when they want to meet up with a man, like specifically their safety and will they or won't they serve.
Okay, yes, okay. Given that, yes, okay, indeed, agreed. There's a lot more to think about. And yes, obviously, the vulnerability of a woman and meeting random men. Yes, okay, let's take that into account because it is a big factor. You can say the disparity because it's probably more single men on these apps than single women. And you can say a lot of these men on these apps are not really single at all. They have girlfriends and wives and they're just fucking about basically. We get a point. However, the interesting thing amongst all of this is a lot of the modern men you can say are possibly pissed off and angry nowadays are the ones that feel they don't even have a chance to partake in any of the nonsense. Like they barely have a chance to even play.
One coffee?
They barely have a chance to even go on a date, a coffee date, to even talk to a woman for an extended period of time. So it's to factor in a lot of people that are just have been commonly dating for a long time, may have been in and out of deep and long-term relationships and partnerships, whatever. And the large number of people out there that lack those experiences. Again, there are different levels, but okay, we get the point. Carry on.
Survive said encounter. Maybe if men behaved in ways that made women safe to go on dates, they'd show up more. But now Scott doesn't want to talk about that. Scott wants to talk about the fact that rejecting men in that way, God, it just leads them right into the hands of these red pillers. You cannot subscribe to red pill ideology if you do not already have a festering hate or distaste for women. If all it takes is a couple of times getting ghosted and internet access for a man to go full on red pill, then don't we think he might have already had some issues that probably he needed to work out before going on dates with women?
Okay, now that's a good point. But again, different levels. Again, I'm a relationship scientist, so I talk and speak from that perspective. There's always new information. There's always room for new growth and everything. But the men that do get caught up in these online ideologies, it's on one hand understandable why a lot of them do. Look at it like this. For a lot of men, the ideology is, it's like even if they understand it, they can take it or leave it. It's like, really. Yeah, I get it. But it's like, yeah, whatever. And the reason a lot of those men can do that is because they've possibly had more experiences where they can just take it or leave it. They can just see it as this and that and just, However, again, the point is the access. Access leads to excess.
One coffee?
Access leads to excess. So a lot of the men that lack any access, that have lacked the experience, the excess amount of experience, they would obviously gravitate towards, information, knowledge, even just random words even that fit their view of the world. Because the interesting thing is, something I've seen over these years is everybody's going to see things from a different perspective. We're not all seeing things from the same perspective. A lot of people take advantage of each other because of that lack of knowledge and or information. Yeah, some people bank on it, to be honest. But everyone isn't seeing things from the same perspective. So if we're talking about the average man here or the below average man who has lacked experience and access, it wouldn't matter what certain other men even said. It would never even matter because they would look at that man and think, wait a second, bro, you're kind of a handsome dude. You can get girls, you can get bitches, bro. No, I don't trust you, bro. I don't trust you. Yeah. That's a simple thought. However, it's a big thing nowadays.
Then don't we think he might have already had some issues that probably he needed to work out before going on dates with women. And
Possibly.
whatever hate they have or distaste or dislike of women that the red pillars capitalize off of, that has nothing to do with women. It was there before the rejection, but the rejection sure is a good excuse. If that is merely the logical conclusion for the behavior of rejection from women, then how should women be reacting? You know, the women who are being at staggering rates, who are being abused by their partners, who are the victims of essays. That's something you might want to read, Scott. Then you might understand why women don't want to show up to dates.
But you know what's odd about that? I mean, that hasn't stopped women ending up with very trash dudes who do end up, putting their hands on them and whatever. And then obviously, the usual response to that would be, well, you see, it's just men in general. It's men in general. You see, even when you think you found a good one, blah, 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 whatever.
If you look at dating app data, there is a tendency for basically very attractive men, high status men, to do really well on dating apps, to get a lot of attention from a lot of women. And then for the bottom chunk of men in terms of attractiveness to get none, to just get no matches whatsoever. And this is a tendency, it's called hypergamy, female hypergamy, that women will tend to want to marry up socially. So they'll want to marry a man who is richer than them, better educated than them, more successful than them, etc. This is basically what you see when people are left to their own devices on dating apps, and you can monitor it carefully. That is basically what people do. And the problem you end up with is that when you don't have a system of monogamous marriage and you don't have the expectation that people wait, there's really nothing stopping those men from just having loads of girlfriends, maybe having at the same time, like having...
In other words, running rampant, going crazy, going ham, running through women as if there's no tomorrow. It's because of things like that nowadays why a lot of men just believe, women are just shallow. Women are just as shallow as men are. Men think with their eyes, but so do women, apparently. The point is, on an app, a dating app is going to be pictures, videos possibly, and words. Sometimes the words aren't even necessary, but the pictures matter. Attraction is attraction. People love to deny all they want to. Attraction is attraction. Even before apps, better looking people had more options anyway. They were just better looking people. Men and women. However, the disparity in the app is, it's a broader access. It means even in small areas where there possibly isn't that many attractive men, a dude from a town over, 2 towns over, who's very good looking, could end up sleeping with a lot of women in most of the towns in his surrounding area. And that's just one good looking man. A lot of women think all men nowadays are nothing but random F-boys who'd bang anything. That's because it's all they come across.
Little harems, right? Not calling them that, but basically playing the field and not being forced to commit because no one expects them to really. And it's like good fun for those men. It's frustrating for the women because they're like having relationships with these men in the hope that it will turn into commitment. And then it does. They end up feeling really bitter. And it's also frustrating for the less attractive men who are getting no attention whatsoever and who read me or listen to me saying the sexual revolution was good for men. And it's like, it wasn't good for me. It's like, I know. There's like an inbuilt inequality.
So the imbalance is, on one hand, some men have never been able to be more F-boys in history than right now. On the other hand, a lot of men get nothing but air. Ghostly air. The world is yours. Have a nice day.
One coffee?
At 80% of everything.
Do not care.
You're a strong, independent woman.